I never thought I'd be the one telling this story, but here I am, 68 years old, sitting in a hospital room in Manila, watching the man I loved take his last breath. He came here for me. He left everything behind, his family, his country, his life, just to be with me. And now he's gone, and I'm the only one who knows the truth about what really happened. They say love has no age, no borders. But what they don't tell you is that sometimes love can kill you. If you like our videos, please subscribe and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. This story needs to be told. I was working double shifts at the care facility when I first saw him, December 15th, 2023. I remember the exact date because it was the day my life changed forever. His name was Robert Mitchell. Bob, he insisted I call him. 72 years old, silver hair, kind blue eyes that seemed to see right through me. He'd come to the Philippines for a hip replacement surgery. Medical tourism, they called it. Cheaper here than in America. I don't need much, he told me, that first day, his voice soft and gentle. Just someone to help me get around while I recover. Maybe show me your beautiful country. I was assigned as his private caregiver. Fresh out of nursing school, desperate for work to support my mother and younger sister. Bob was different from the other foreign patients. He asked about my family, remembered my sister's name, brought me small gifts. Nothing expensive, just thoughtful. A mango from the market, a book about Filipino history. You're too kind to me, I told him one evening as we sat in his hotel room watching the sunset over Manila Bay. Maria, he said, turning to look at me with those gentle eyes, you're the first person in years who's made me feel like I matter. That's when I knew he was lonely. Really lonely. He told me about his wife who died 3 years ago, his grown children who rarely called, his empty house in Ohio. He'd come to the Philippines not just for surgery, but to feel alive again. I was dying inside, he whispered. Then I met you. I should have been more careful, should have kept it professional, but when someone looks at you like you're their whole world, when they make you feel special in a life that's been nothing but struggle, it's hard to resist. Within 2 weeks I was visiting him every day, even when I wasn't working. We'd talk for hours. He'd tell me about America, about his dreams to travel. I'd share my hopes of maybe studying abroad someday, of giving my family a better life. Come with me, he said one night, taking my hand. Come back to America with me. I'll sponsor your visa. We'll get married. I thought he was joking, but the way he looked at me, the way his voice trembled when he said it, I knew he was serious. Bob, we barely know each other, I said, but my heart was already racing. I know enough, he replied. I know you're kind, intelligent, beautiful. I know you make me happier than I've been in years. I know I love you, Maria. Love. The word hung in the air between us like a promise. Looking back now, I realized that was the moment everything started to go wrong. Not because he was lying. Bob never lied to me. But because love, real love, shouldn't happen that fast, it shouldn't feel that desperate. But I was young and he was offering me everything I'd ever dreamed of. A chance to escape poverty, to help my family, to see the world. And underneath all of that, maybe I was lonely too. I love you too, I whispered back. And I meant it. God help me, I meant every word. Bob's recovery was going well, but he kept extending his stay. First it was an extra week, then a month, then 3 months. His visa was running out, but he didn't seem to care. I can't leave you, he'd say whenever I brought it up. Not when I've finally found happiness. The romantic part of me melted every time. But the practical part, the part that had been taking care of my family since I was 16, started to worry. His children began calling more frequently. I could hear them arguing with him through the thin hotel walls. Dad, you're being ridiculous, his daughter Jennifer would shout through the phone. You barely know this woman, she's half your age. Can't you see what's happening? She's using you for a visa, his son Michael would add. Come home before you make a mistake you can't undo. After these calls, Bob would be quiet for hours. Sometimes I'd find him staring out the window, looking older than his 72 years. They think I'm a fool, he told me one night. You're not a fool, I said, but something in my chest felt tight. You're just in love. Am I? He asked, and the question surprised us both. That's when I realized Bob wasn't just lonely, he was desperate. desperate to feel young again, to feel wanted, to feel like his life still had meaning. And I was the person who made him feel all of those things. The problem was, I was starting to feel desperate too. My mother had been diagnosed with diabetes. The medication was expensive. My sister needed money for college. Bob had been helping. Not directly, but through gifts, dinners, small amounts of cash here and there. I'd started to depend on his generosity. "I want to send money to your family," he said one evening, "to show them I'm serious about us." "Bob, you don't have to." "I want to," he insisted. $5,000 for your mother's medicine and your sister's school." $5,000, more money than I'd ever seen at once, enough to change everything for my family. But accepting it felt like crossing a line. Once I took his money, I'd owe him something. And owing someone something changes the nature of love. "I can't accept that much," I said weakly. "You can and you will," he replied, pulling me close. "We're going to be married, Maria. What's mine is yours." That night I called my best friend Carmen. "Be careful," she warned me. "I've seen this before. Foreign men who fall too hard, too fast. They promise everything, but when reality hits—" "Bob's different," I said. But even as I said it, I wasn't sure I believed it. "They're all different," Carmen replied. "Until they're not." I should have listened to her, should have listened to the voice in my head that was screaming warnings. But $5,000 was $5,000, and my mother needed her. Medicine, I took the money. The next morning, Bob was different. More possessive, more intense. "I've been thinking about our wedding," he said over breakfast. "I want to do it here in the Philippines. My family won't come, but yours will. That's what matters." "Bob, slow down," I said. "We don't have to rush." "Why? Wait?" he asked, and there was something almost frantic in his voice. "I'm not getting any younger, Maria. I need to know you're mine. Really mine. Mine." The word made my skin crawl. Love wasn't supposed to be about ownership, but I was in too deep now. I'd taken his money. I'd let him believe we had a future. I'd let myself believe it too. "Okay," I whispered. "Let's get married." The smile that spread across his face should have made me happy. Instead, it made me feel trapped. Planning the wedding became Bob's obsession. He threw himself into it with the energy of a man half his age, spending money like water on flowers, decorations, a venue overlooking the bay. "This is going to be perfect," he'd say, showing me pictures of elaborate cakes and expensive dresses. "The wedding of your dreams." But it wasn't the wedding of my dreams. It was the wedding of his dreams, his fantasy of being young and in love again, of having a beautiful wife who would make him feel alive. I tried to slow things down. "Maybe we should live together first," I suggested. "Get to know each other better." "We know each other perfectly," he replied, but his eyes were wild, desperate. "I know you love me. That's all I need to know." Love. The word had started to feel like a cage. 2 weeks before the wedding, Bob collapsed. I found him on the bathroom floor of his hotel room, conscious but pale, clutching his chest. "I can't breathe," he gasped. "Maria, I can't breathe." The hospital said it was a mild heart attack. Stress, they said. Too much excitement for a man his age. "You need to rest," the doctor told him. "No major life changes. No stress." But Bob wouldn't listen. From his hospital bed, he kept planning our wedding. "We'll postpone it a month," he said, "just until I'm stronger. But we're not canceling it, Maria. Promise me we're not canceling it." I promised, but doubt was eating away at me. This wasn't love anymore. It was desperation masquerading as love. And I was trapped in the middle of it. His children flew in from America. Jennifer was 45, a lawyer with cold eyes and a sharp tongue. Michael was 42, quieter but just as suspicious. "Dad, you're having a heart attack because of stress," Jennifer said during one of their visits. "This woman is literally going to kill you." "Don't talk about Maria like that," Bob snapped, but his voice was weak. "Look at yourself," Michael added. "You're 72 years old, having heart attacks over a woman who's young enough to be your granddaughter. This isn't love, Dad. This is a midlife crisis." "It's not midlife," Bob said quietly. "It's end of life, and I have the right to spend what time I have left with someone who makes me happy." The words hit me like a physical blow. End of life. He was talking about dying. That night, alone with Bob, I tried to have the conversation we'd been avoiding. "Maybe your children are right," I said carefully. "Maybe we're moving too fast." "Are you breaking up with me?" he asked, and the panic in his voice was terrifying. "I'm not breaking up with you. I'm just saying, because I'll die if you leave." "Me," he said. "Literally die, Maria. You're the only thing keeping me alive." The emotional manipulation was so obvious, so desperate, that it should have made me angry. Instead, it made me sad. This wasn't the man I'd fallen in love with. This was a man drowning in his own loneliness, pulling me down with him. "I'm not leaving you," I said, but the words felt like a lie. "Promise me," he begged. "Promise me you'll marry me. Promise me you'll stay with me until the end." Until the end. Looking back, I think part of me knew what he meant. Part of me knew he was dying, not just from his heart condition, but from the weight of his own desperation. "I promise," I whispered. But as I said the words, I felt something inside me break. The part of me that had genuinely loved him, that had believed in our future together, cracked and started to die. Bob smiled and closed his eyes. "I love you so much, Maria. You saved my life." "No," I thought as I watched him sleep. "I'm killing us both." Bob was released from the hospital 3 days later, but he was different, weaker, more fragile. The doctors said his heart was damaged, that he needed to be careful. But Bob seemed to interpret this as a reason to live more intensely, not more cautiously. "I want to move here permanently," he announced on his first day back. "I want to sell my house in Ohio and move to the Philippines. We'll buy a place together." "Bob, that's a huge decision," I said. "You should think about it more." "I have thought about it," he replied. "I've been thinking about nothing else. I'm alone in America, Maria. My children don't need me. My friends are dying or dead. But here, with you, I feel alive." The conversation was interrupted by a knock at the door. Bob's lawyer had arrived from the States, a thin, nervous man named Peterson, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Mr. Mitchell," Peterson said, "I need to discuss your will with you." "My will?" Bob looked confused. "Your children contacted me," Peterson explained. "They're concerned about your mental state. They want to make sure your affairs are in order." I should have left the room, but Bob grabbed my hand. "Stay," he said. "This concerns you too." Peterson looked uncomfortable. "Mr. Mitchell, I need to ask you directly. Are you planning to leave any portion of your estate to Miss Santos?" Bob's grip on my hand tightened. "I'm planning to leave everything to my wife. Maria and I are getting married." "Sir, with respect, you've known Miss Santos for 3 months. Your estate is worth over $2 million. Your children are naturally concerned." "My children are vultures," Bob snapped. "They've been waiting for me to die so they can inherit my money. Well, they can wait a little longer." The number hit me like a physical blow, $2 million. I'd known Bob was comfortable, but I'd had no idea he was wealthy. Peterson cleared his throat. "Mr. Mitchell, I have to advise you that changing your will so drastically, so quickly, especially in your current health condition, could be challenged in court." "Let them challenge it," Bob said. "Maria, I want you to have everything, the house, the investments, the insurance money, everything." "Bob, no," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I can't accept that." "You can and you will," he replied. "I don't have much time left, Maria. I want to know that when I'm gone, you'll be taken care of." That's when I realized what was happening. Bob wasn't just planning to marry me, he was planning to die, and he wanted to make sure I inherited his fortune when he did. "I need some air," I said, standing up abruptly. "Maria, wait up," but I was already out the door, running down the hotel hallway, my heart pounding. $2 million. He wanted to leave me $2 million, and all I could think was, what kind of man plans his own death as a wedding gift? I didn't go back to Bob's room that night. Instead, I went home to my mother's small apartment, where I sat on our worn couch and stared at the wall until dawn. "You look terrible," my mother said when she found me there in the morning. "What's wrong?" I told her everything. About Bob, about the marriage, about the will, about the $2 million. My mother was quiet for a long time. Finally, she said, "Do you love him?" "I thought I did," I admitted. "But now I don't know if I love him or if I love what he can do for us." "And what about him? Does he love you?" That was the question that had been haunting me. "I think he loves the idea of me." I said. He's lonely and scared, and I make him feel young again. But I don't think he really knows me. Then you have to make a choice, my mother said. You can marry him and take care of him until he dies and accept whatever comes after. Or you can walk away now, before it's too late. If I walk away, we'll have nothing, I said. Your medicine, Elena's school, we'll manage, my mother said firmly. We always have. But could we? Elena's tuition was due next month. My mother's medication cost more than I made in a week. Bob's money could solve all of our problems. I went back to see him that afternoon. He was sitting by the window, looking frailer than ever. I thought you'd left me, he said when I walked in. I considered it, I replied honestly. But you came back. I came back. He smiled, but it was a sad smile. You're having doubts about the money. I'm having doubts about everything, I said. Bob nodded. I know what you're thinking, that I'm trying to buy you, that I'm some pathetic old man who can't accept that a beautiful young woman might actually love him. Aren't you? I asked. The question hung in the air between us. Bob was quiet for a long time. Maybe, he said finally. Maybe I am. But does it matter? What do you mean? I mean I'm going to die soon, Maria. The doctors don't want to tell me, but I can see it in their eyes. My heart is failing. I have maybe a year, maybe two if I'm lucky. So the question isn't whether I'm buying your love. The question is whether you're willing to give me love, real love, not pretend love, for whatever time I have left. I sat down next to him, my heart breaking. Bob, I know it's not fair, he continued. I know I'm asking you to grieve for me, to be a widow at 34, but I also know that I can change your life, Maria. I can make sure you and your family never have to worry about money again. Isn't that worth something? It was the most honest conversation we'd ever had. No romance, no pretense, just two people trying to figure out if they could make a deal that would work for both of them. What if I can't love you the way you want me to? I asked. Then love me the way you can, he said. Take care of me. Be kind to me. Let me feel like I matter to someone. That's all I really need. I thought about my mother, counting pills to make them last longer. I thought about Elena, brilliant and ambitious, whose dreams were limited by our poverty. I thought about Bob, lonely and dying, offering to solve all of our problems in exchange for companionship. Okay, I said, but I want you to promise me something, anything. Promise me you'll fight to live. Don't just give up and die. If I'm going to do this, I want you to really try. Bob took my hand. I promise. It was a promise he would keep, even when keeping it killed him. We were married, on a Tuesday in March. Small ceremony, just my family and a few friends. Bob's children didn't come. They'd stopped speaking to him entirely after the will was changed. Bob looked handsome in his white barong traditional Filipino wedding shirt. I wore a simple white dress, nothing elaborate. We'd decided to save money for more practical things. You look beautiful, Bob whispered as we exchanged vows. So do you, I whispered back and meant it. Despite everything, despite all my doubts, there was something beautiful about this moment. Two lonely people promising to take care of each other. The priest asked if we would love and honor each other in sickness and in health. I will, Bob said, his voice strong and clear. I will, I echoed, and realized I meant it more than I'd expected. We had our reception at a small restaurant overlooking the bay. Bob danced with me to an old American song, something slow and romantic. He was breathing hard by the end of it. Are you okay? I asked. Perfect, he said. This is the happiest day of my life. But I could see the pain in his eyes, the way he pressed his hand to his chest when he thought I wasn't looking. That night in our hotel room, Bob gave me a gift. A small jewelry box. It was my mother's, he said as I opened it. Inside was a simple gold necklace with a small cross pendant. She wore it every day for 60 years. I want you to have it. I put it on, and Bob smiled. Perfect, he said again. We made love that night, gentle and careful. Bob was patient with me, kind. Afterward, he held me close and whispered, "Thank you for saving my life, Maria." But I knew even then that I wasn't saving his life. I was just making his death more bearable. The next morning, Bob woke up gasping. "I can't breathe," he said, the same words from his first heart attack. But this time was different. This time, his lips were blue. The ambulance ride to the hospital was a blur. Bob held my hand the entire way, squeezing it whenever the pain got bad. "Don't leave me," he kept saying. "Promise me you won't leave me." "I won't leave you," I promised. At the hospital, the doctors were blunt. Bob's heart was failing rapidly. They could try surgery, but at his age, with his condition, the chances were slim. "How long?" I asked. "Days," the doctor said. "Maybe a week." I called Bob's children. Jennifer answered. "He's dying," I told her. "You should come." There was a long pause. "Is this some kind of trick?" "No trick," I said. "Your father is dying. He's asking for you." "We'll be on the next flight," she said, and hung up. I went back to Bob's room. He was awake, looking at me with those gentle blue eyes. "How long?" he asked. "Not long," I said. He nodded. "I'm scared, Maria." "I know. I'm scared too." "Will you stay with me?" "Every minute," I promised. Bob smiled. "I love you, Mrs. Mitchell, Mrs. Mitchell. I was a wife now, a wife about to become a widow." "I love you too," I said, and this time I knew I meant it. Bob's children arrived 2 days later. Jennifer was still angry, but Michael seemed genuinely grief-stricken. They'd lost their mother just 3 years ago, and now they were losing their father. "I'm sorry," Jennifer said to me in the hospital hallway. I thought you were just after his money." "Maybe I was at first," I admitted. "But not anymore." "He really loves you," Michael said. "I can see it in his eyes when he looks at you." "I love him too," I said, surprised by how true it felt. Bob was in and out of consciousness those last few days. When he was awake, he liked to talk about our future. The house we'd never buy, the trips we'd never take, the life we'd never have together. "I want to show you Ohio," he said one afternoon. "The leaves in autumn are incredible." I'd love to see it," I said, playing along. "We'll go next year," he said, "when I'm feeling better." But we both knew there wouldn't be a next year. On the 3rd day, Bob asked me to marry him again. "We're already married," I reminded him gently. "I know," he said, "but I want to marry you again, in my heart. Will you marry me in my heart, Maria?" "Yes," I whispered. "I'll marry you in my heart." He smiled and closed his eyes. Perfect. That night I slept in the chair next to his bed. I woke up to find him watching me. "You're beautiful when you sleep," he said. "You're not supposed to be awake," I scolded gently. "I don't want to waste time sleeping," he said. "I want to look at you." "Bob, I need to tell you something," he said, "about the money, about the will. You don't have to—" "I do." He struggled to sit up. "I need you to know that it's not payment. It's not because I think I'm buying you. It's because I want to give you choices. The choice to go to school, to travel, to help your family. The choice to find real love someday with someone who isn't dying." I started to cry. "I don't want choices, I want you." "I know," he said, "and that's how I know you really love me. That's how I know this is real." The next morning, Bob couldn't speak. He could only squeeze my hand and look at me with those gentle blue eyes. The doctors said it was time. Jennifer and Michael stood on one side of the bed. I stood on the other, holding Bob's hand. "Dad," Jennifer said, crying now. "Dad, I'm sorry I was so angry. I just wanted you to be happy." Bob's eyes moved to her, and he smiled slightly. "I love you, Dad," Michael said. "Thank you for everything." Bob looked at me one last time. His lips moved, but no sound came out. I leaned closer. "I love you," he whispered, so quietly I almost missed it. "I love you too," I whispered back. He squeezed my hand one final time, and then he was gone. I sat there for a long time, holding his hand, feeling it grow cold. Jennifer and Michael cried quietly. The machines beeped and then went silent. "He was happy," I said finally. "At the end, he was happy." "Thank you," Jennifer said. "Thank you for making him happy." I kissed Bob's forehead one last time. "Goodbye, my love." Later, cleaning out his hotel room, I found a letter he'd written me. It was dated the day after our wedding. "My dearest Maria," it read, "if you're reading this, then I'm gone. I want you to know that the months I spent with you were the happiest of my life. Not because you were young and beautiful, but because you were kind. You saw an old lonely man and you chose to love him anyway. That's a gift I'll never forget. Live well, my love. Be happy. That's all I ever wanted. I folded the letter carefully and put it in my purse, next to the gold cross necklace he'd given me. My husband was dead. I was a widow at 34, and I was $2 million richer. The funeral was small. Bob had requested cremation, and his ashes were divided between Ohio and the Philippines. Part of him would go home to his children, and part would stay here with me. The will reading was awkward. Jennifer and Michael got small amounts, enough to know they hadn't been forgotten, but not enough to maintain their previous lifestyle. Everything else went to me. We could contest it, Jennifer said afterward. We could, Michael agreed, but we won't. Why not? I asked. Because he was happy, Jennifer said. For the first time since Mum died, he was genuinely happy. That's worth more than money. I used some of the inheritance to pay for my mother's medical care and Elena's education. The rest I invested, following the advice of Bob's financial advisor. I didn't want to waste what Bob had given me. 6 months later, I moved to a small apartment near the university. I was taking classes, nursing, but also psychology. I wanted to understand what had happened between Bob and me. I wanted to understand the difference between loneliness and love. I started volunteering at a support group for widows. Many of the women there had lost husbands after long marriages. Their grief was different from mine, deeper, more complex. They'd lost partners, companions, fathers of their children. I'd lost something too, but I wasn't sure what to call it. Not a partner in the traditional sense, but not just a friend either. I'd lost someone who'd needed me, who'd chosen me, who'd trusted me with his last months of life. Do you miss him? One of the women asked me. Every day, I said, and it was true. Do you regret it? That was a harder question. No, I said finally. I don't regret it, but I wish it had been different. Different how? I wish we'd had more time. I wish we'd met when we were both young or both old. I wish we'd been equals. But you weren't equals, she said gently. And that's okay. Sometimes love isn't about equality. Sometimes it's about giving what you can when you can. A year later, I got a letter from Bob's son, Michael. He was getting married, and he wanted to invite me to the wedding. Dad talked about you constantly, he wrote. He said you taught him that it's never too late to fall in love. That lesson helped me open my heart again after my divorce. I thought you should know. I didn't go to the wedding, and it felt too complicated, but I sent a gift and a card. I was glad that something good had come from Bob's and my strange, beautiful, tragic love story. 2 years after Bob's death, I met someone new, a doctor at the hospital where I was doing my residency. His name was Carlos, and he was kind and patient and age-appropriate. We dated slowly, carefully. I told him about Bob early on. Do you think you can love someone else? Carlos asked. I think I can love differently, I said. I think I can love more wisely. What did he teach you? Bob? I thought about it. He taught me that love isn't always about forever. Sometimes it's about right now. Sometimes it's about being brave enough to care for someone even when you know it's going to hurt. And what did you teach him? That he mattered, that he was worth loving, that he wasn't alone. Carlos nodded. That's a beautiful gift to give someone. It was the least I could do, I said. 5 years have passed since Bob died. I'm 39, now married to Carlos with a baby on the way. We have a good life and not wealthy but comfortable. Bob's money paid for my education and helped me build a career. I work in geriatric care now, helping elderly patients and their families navigate end-of-life decisions. Sometimes I think about what Bob would say if he could see me now. I think he'd be proud. I think he'd be happy that his gift allowed me to help other people. I still wear his mother's necklace. Carlos doesn't mind. He understands that some loves don't end with death. They just change form. Last week, I was cleaning out old papers when I found a letter I'd written to Bob, but never sent. It was dated 6 months after his death, when I was still angry and confused and grieving. Dear Bob, it read, I don't know if what we had was real love, or just two people using each other to feel less alone. I don't know if you saved me or if I saved you. I don't know if the money makes me a gold digger or if the love makes me a saint. I don't know anything anymore. I smiled, reading it. I'd been so young then. so desperate to categorize everything, to make sense of a relationship. That defied easy explanation. Now I know that love doesn't always make sense. Sometimes it's messy and complicated and unequal. Sometimes it's more about need than want, more about timing than compatibility. Sometimes it lasts a lifetime, and sometimes it lasts 3 months. But it's still love. I wrote a new letter that night, not to Bob. He's gone and I've made my peace with that, but to myself, to the young woman who'd been so afraid of making the wrong choice. Dear Maria, I wrote, you did the right thing. You gave a lonely man love and comfort in his final months. You gave him purpose and joy and a reason to keep fighting. You gave him dignity in death. Those are beautiful gifts. Yes, you benefited from his generosity, but you also gave him something valuable in return. Your youth, your energy, your hope. You gave him pieces of yourself that you can never get back. That's not using someone, that's loving them. Don't feel guilty about the money. Use it wisely, use it well, but don't feel guilty. Bob wanted to give it to you. It made him happy, to know you'd be taken care of. Let his generosity be part of his legacy. And don't feel guilty about finding love again. Bob would want you to be happy. He would want you to have a full life, a real partnership, children if you want them. His love for you was never meant to be a cage. You were brave, Maria. You chose compassion over cynicism. You chose to care for someone who needed caring. That's something to be proud of. Love isn't always equal. Love isn't always fair, but love is always worth it, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. You loved well. That's enough. I folded the letter and put it in my jewelry box, next to Bob's mother's necklace. My daughter was born on a Tuesday in March, the same month Bob and I were married. She has Carlos's dark eyes and my stubborn chin. We named her Sophia, which means wisdom. When she's old enough, I'll tell her about Bob. Not the complicated parts, those are for adults to understand, but the simple truth that sometimes people come into our lives for a short time and change everything. That love takes many forms, and kindness is always the right choice. I still volunteer at the support group for widows. A new woman joined last month, an American expatriate whose Filipino husband died suddenly. She's angry and lost and asking all the same questions I once asked. How do you know if it was real, she wanted to know. How do you know if you really loved them or if you just loved what they gave you? Does it matter? I asked her, echoing Bob's words from so long ago. Of course it matters. Why? She thought about it. Because I want it to have meant something. It meant something, I told her. You were there, you cared for him, you made his life better. That always means something. Last week, I got a call from Jennifer, Bob's daughter. She'd found my number in her father's old papers. I wanted to thank you, she said. I know it's been years, but I never properly thanked you for taking care of him. You don't need to thank me, I said. Yes, I do. You gave him something we couldn't. You gave him hope. You made him feel young again. That's a gift. After we hung up, I sat in my garden, watching Sophia play in the sunshine. Carlos was at the hospital, delivering someone else's baby. Mother was inside, cooking dinner and telling stories to my sister's children. This is the life Bob's love bought me. Not just the money, though that helped, but the confidence to believe I deserved good things. The courage to love again. The wisdom to understand that sometimes the greatest gift you can give someone is simply witnessing their joy. I touched the gold cross at my throat and whispered, "Thank you, Bob, for everything." Somewhere, I like to think, he smiled.